Church, come on. Wake up tonight, 6 p.m. I need you to do me a favor. Get on your feet real quick. Get on your feet. Now, everybody just give each other a high five. Say, welcome. Glad you're here today. Yep. Guys, what are you doing? Sit down. I'm trying to preach. I got a message. Come on. Sit down. What are you guys doing? Stop. Hey, listen, 6 p.m. Couple things. Number one, I'm Nate. My name's Nate. I'm the creative director here at the Experience Church. Good to see you. Nice to meet you. I'm on staff here, and first, I just want to thank our pastors that, Angel was just talking about the time that they're taking away. I just want to thank them and give them some thanks for allowing me to be on the stage. It's an honor to be here tonight, and just real quick, can we give it up for our pastors? Thank you, guys. So, okay, a couple things. If you know me at all, you know that I can get excited on the stage. I like to be all over the stage, but tonight it's going to be a little bit different. I've got to stay close to this podium because I believe that God has given me some very specific words that I've been spending some time on this week. Usually I like to have a note and then talk about it just from my heart and just kind of speak a little more free, but tonight is going to be different because I'm telling you, I believe that they are precision words, and I believe that they're for you and that they're for me. So I'm going to ask you to buckle up and work on with me as I am trying so hard to get closer to that podium, but I just can't. I pass it every time. So just bear with me. First of all, welcome to The Office. Welcome to the new series at TE Church, The Office. Creative has been working with pastors on what The Office is going to be and why for some time, and we really thought that The Office would be great because it's about real people in a real life situation. Now, obviously, it's not reality TV. Who's seen The Office? If you've seen The Office, make some noise, put your hands up. Good. So most of you in the room. Now, if you haven't seen it, it's not reality TV. It is a scripted show, but it's really a show about kind of real people doing real life stuff. These guys work in an office together, and really, we thought it was great for our church because these people are in crazy situations. They're in awkward situations. Sometimes the stuff that they do is kind of boring. Sometimes the stuff that they do is really exciting, but they're really always real. That's the thing. They're always real situations. They're situations that you and I could go through, and that's who we are at TE Church. We're just real. I want to be real. You want to be real. So everybody knows the show, probably, even if you haven't seen it, and everybody probably knows Michael Scott, the boss man. He is a really special guy, and he causes a lot of problems for people in the office, and I can see why he would be the favorite, but he's not mine. I like him. He's great, but my favorite character on The Office is Jim Halpert. This is Jim. We get Jim up? No Jim? Okay, well, he's a guy. It doesn't matter. He's just a person. Now you don't know what his face looks like, but that's neither here nor there. If you've seen the show, you know about Jim. And if you haven't, basically in the beginning of the 9 seasons, he's like this quiet, shy, kind of underconfident guy. And when you see him, you don't really think much of him. You just think, oh, that's just a normal guy. He's just the average Joe or the average Jim, I guess. And by the 9th and final season, he has married the love of his life. He started a small business. He's really doing some things in his life. He's had kids, and you've seen Jim become this confident, successful, different person than what you knew 9 seasons before. And I got to thinking about why. Nobody knew this about Jim in season 1, but Jim had dreams. Jim had some dreams. And we got to see him kind of achieve those dreams over 9 seasons. And I got to thinking about what dreams were and what it means to have a dream. And I felt kind of bad about it because saying dreams is so cliche, right? It's like, follow your dreams. I'm like, just follow your dreams and everything will be great. And that's just really not what it is. It's so hokey to even think about it that way. I think the reason that I think about it like that is because we post about having dreams. We post inspirational quotes more and more and more. But I think we're dreaming less and less. I want you to think about that. How often are you posting about having a dream when you could be dreaming? How often are you on social media or Googling inspirational quotes about dreams when you could be dreaming yourself? So thinking about that, I just think if you're in a place right now where you feel like you don't have a dream, or you're in a place where you're feeling tension and you're like, I just can't find passion, this message is going to be for you. Now, if you are a dreamer, I think that this is still going to be for you. I think this is going to be something important for you to take away that you can take some notes on. You can take this home with you. But if you are the person that feels right now like so discouraged or not passionate about anything, this is going to be for you tonight. So if you're ready for this message, say, I'm ready, church. I'm ready. Oh, yeah, that was good. That was really good. That was better than the 10 and the 11:30, but that's probably because I didn't ask him to say that. So let's talk about this guy named Joseph. The story of Joseph in the Bible is really an incredible story, but there's a lot to unpack. There's a lot of details. So I'm going to have to move quickly. I'm going to have to skim in some parts. So I'm going to ask you to just buckle up and engage with me so that you can move with me through the story. So let's get right into a summary about Joseph. Before we start, Joseph was 17 when we first start reading about him. And one of the first things we learn is that he is a dreamer. He has 11 brothers, and Joseph is the youngest, and of course, the favorite. Classic younger sibling. His father even gives him this beautiful robe, a coat of many colors, because he's the favorite. And his brothers hated him for that. The Bible says his brothers hated him for that. So I'm actually not a younger sibling, in case you can't tell by that tone in my voice. I am the oldest of 4 siblings, so I can totally get the feeling. I understand the feeling. Are there any older siblings in the room? Yeah. So you know exactly what it feels like to have done the same things that your younger siblings did, except you got in trouble for them. You know how that feels. That's the only difference, really, and that's why you don't like them, because they did the same exact thing that you did. They just never got in trouble for it. So just remember that as we're moving forward, that Joseph, he was the youngest of 11 other brothers. So one night, Joseph, he has this dream. He has a dream while he's sleeping that he and his brothers were tying grain, bundles of grain, and his bundle, it stood up, and all the other bundles, they bowed down before Joseph's grain. And so what do? If you're the youngest brother, you know that you're not really liked for that reason. And the Bible says that Joseph actually told his father about things that his brothers did that were wrong, which just gives you another picture of why they did not like Joseph. Now imagine you have this dream as the youngest that all of your older brothers bowed down before you. What are you going to do? You're going to tell them about it, obviously. You're going to rub it in their face that you had that dream. So he told them, and the brothers did not like that very much. The next night he had another dream where the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowed down before him. This time he tells his brothers and his father, and in verse 10 his father said, "What is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you?" His brothers were jealous of him, but his father thought about what the dreams meant. A few days later, Joseph's father sends him to check on the older brothers because they were out tending the flocks. These were farmers. So he goes to find them, and I want to pick up there in Genesis 37:18. Just be ready to move with me, church. When Joseph's brothers saw him coming, they recognized him in the distance. As he approached, they made plans to kill him. As he approached, they made plans. No, I read that right. To kill him. "Here comes the dreamer," they said. "Come on, let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns. We can tell our father a wild animal has eaten him. Then we'll see what becomes of his dreams." The first thing I want to tell you today is this. Where there's a dreamer, there's a dream killer. For every dream that you have, watch out for the dream killer. Do you know of any dream killers? Can you think of any people? Can you think of any dream killers in your life? I want you to think about that, and I also want to ask you this question. If you can think of dream killers, that means some of you are dream killers, so which one are you? Are you a dreamer, or are you a dream killer? And I want you to be honest with yourself about that. You don't have to talk to anybody else about it, but I want you to be honest with yourself if you are a dreamer or a dream killer as we move on tonight, because that's going to be really, really important as we move on. Okay, let's keep going. Judah said, verse 26, Judah said to his brothers, "What will we gain by killing our brother? We'd have to cover up the crime. Instead of hurting him, let's sell him to those Ishmaelite traders." Good call, Judah. Guys, I really feel bad about hurting my brother. Let's not hurt him. Let's just sell him into slavery instead. Doesn't make a lot of sense. So are you a Joseph or are you a Judah? Are you a dreamer or the dream killer? Now, I think most of the time, if you're a dream killer, and you're being honest with yourself about that, I would say it's only because you feel like your dream has been killed. That is where dream killers come from. Dream killers come from killed dreams. So I want you to think about that tonight. If you are a dream killer, what is that dream that you feel like has been killed? I want you to know it hasn't. Your dream has not been killed. Let's move on. Joseph's brothers, they decided to sell him as a slave, so they did. Joseph ends up getting taken to Egypt and sold to this guy named Potiphar. Now, Potiphar was this high-ranking official. He was captain of the guard underneath the king of Egypt, Pharaoh. So Potiphar was doing pretty well for himself. He's pretty high up. And Joseph starts working for Potiphar, and he starts just killing it. He's absolutely crushing his job. Now, he's the lowest of the low. He's a slave. And let's pick up in Genesis 39:2. I want you to see what happens. The Lord was with Joseph, so he succeeded in everything he did as he served in the home of his Egyptian master. Potiphar noticed this and realized that the Lord was with Joseph, giving him success in everything he did. This pleased Potiphar, so he soon made Joseph his personal attendant. He put him in charge of his entire household and everything he owned. From the day Joseph was put in charge of his master's household and property, the Lord began to bless Potiphar's household for Joseph's sake. All his household affairs ran smoothly, and his crops and his livestock flourished. So Potiphar gave Joseph complete administrative responsibility over everything he owned. With Joseph there, he didn't worry about a thing except what kind of food to eat, which reminds me of myself many days. I put the muffin in stud muffin. That's me. So Joseph started as a slave and is now in charge of Potiphar's household, but there's some bad news coming his way. He thinks everything's great. You got to imagine if you're Joseph and you're a slave, you start there. Your brothers just betrayed you. Now you're a slave. You're probably thinking, man, things are just not looking up for me. And then as you continue to work for Potiphar, he's elevating Joseph to this awesome position, putting him in charge of a lot of stuff. And then more bad news for Joseph. Potiphar's wife tries to sleep with him. And he says no, but that makes her angry. So she lies and says that he tried to rape her. This makes Potiphar pretty angry. Even though it's not true, he was pretty angry about it. And he sends Joseph to prison. So first, he's been sold into slavery by his own flesh and blood. Now he's in prison for a crime he didn't commit. And I want you to know this. Please don't miss why. The question is, why? Why is this happening to Joseph? It's happening to Joseph. We can track it all the way back to day one when Joseph talked about his dream. The moment that Joseph shared his dream, the moment that Joseph had a dream and shared it with the world and started acting upon that dream, this is what started happening to him. Now, I don't want that to discourage you. I want you to understand that that's very, very important as we move forward. All of this has happened to Joseph so far because he's had a dream. I want you to watch what happens. Let's read in Genesis 39:21. But the Lord was with Joseph in the prison and showed him his faithful love. And the Lord made Joseph a favorite with the prison warden. Before long, the warden put Joseph in charge of all other prisoners and over everything that happened in the prison. Are you noticing a pattern here? The warden had no more worries because Joseph took care of everything. The Lord was with him and caused everything he did to succeed. You seeing that? Are you feeling that ebb and flow where Joseph is being taken to the bottom, to the bottom, to the bottom, and he's being elevated back to the top, back to the top? And we can go back in Scripture and we can see because the Lord was with him and caused everything he did to succeed. So the next thing I want you to know, if you're taking notes today, is dreamers don't make excuses, they move forward. Dreamers don't make excuses, they move forward. So Joseph, even in prison, is rising through the ranks because God is with him. His life has been this roller coaster, really, so far. He's been betrayed by his family, sold into slavery, at the top of Potiphar's food chain, now back in prison, but then rising with favor under the warden to be in charge of other prisoners. At any point in this story, Joseph could have complained about the lows in the situation. He could have been angry with God, but God gave Joseph this dream, and that changed everything for Joseph. So let's move on to Genesis 40, verse 1. Sometime later, Pharaoh's chief cupbearer, I've been working on that word all week long. Say cupbearer. Right? It's difficult. Pharaoh's chief cupbearer and chief baker offended their royal master. Pharaoh became angry with these two officials, and he put them in the prison where Joseph was, in the place of the captain of the guard. They remained in prison for quite some time, and the captain of the guard assigned them to Joseph, who looked after them. While they were in prison, Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker each had a dream one night, and each dream had its own meaning. When Joseph saw them the next morning, he noticed that they both looked upset. "Why do you look so worried today?" he asked them. And they replied, "We both had dreams last night, but no one can tell us what they mean." "Interpreting dreams is God's business," Joseph replied. "Go ahead and tell me your dreams." So they tell Joseph the dreams, and he helps interpret them. The cupbearer's dream, Joseph says, means that he's going to be taken out of prison and reinstated as the cupbearer once again, and everything's going to be great for him. And then he looks over at the baker, and he says, "And you're going to die." I don't know why he did that in the same room. I feel like that was rude of Joseph. Probably should do those in separate meetings. But both of those things actually ended up happening. Joseph was correct. But before those things came to pass, in verse 14, Joseph says to the cupbearer, "And please remember me and do me a favor when things go well for you. Mention me to Pharaoh so he might let me out of this place." Here's my next point. Dreamers aren't proud. Dreamers aren't proud. Dreamers aren't afraid to ask for help. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. In fact, Proverbs 16:18 says, "Pride goes before destruction, and arrogance before a fall." Dreamers aren't afraid to ask for help. Now, the biggest problem I see with dreamers, I get this because I deal with this all the time. Here I go again away from that podium. I see this all the time because I'm a dreamer. I get passionate about things very quickly, very easily. And once I got my mind set on something, I'm ready to go. And I don't want to ask anybody for help. You know why? If I'm being honest with myself and if I'm being honest with you, it's because I don't want to give anybody else credit for my dream. I don't want to share the credit for my dream. How many of you have been in that situation where it's just a pride thing? You just don't want to ask because you don't want to share in the credit. You don't want somebody else getting credit for what you believe is just your dream. Mine, mine, mine. But here's my question. Some of you, or here's my other point. Some of you are just not asking for help because you're proud. Because you just don't want to ask for help because you think, I can do it on my own. Because you're arrogant. Me sometimes. My wife just nodded so big. It was awesome. It was awesome. She's right. But Joseph could have said, I'm not going to ask this guy. He's busy. He's got his own stuff going on. He just got put in prison by the king of Egypt, so I'm not going to ask him to do that. He's totally busy. He's got his own stuff. But Joseph knew that his best bet on getting out of that prison was to ask for a favor. Don't be afraid to ask someone for a favor. Why would you be afraid? Listen to this. Why would you be afraid to ask a person for a favor when you beg God for favors every day? When you're sitting in your car and you're kind of at the lowest of the low and you're in a situation you don't want to be in, you are praying to God and you're saying, "God, I'll do whatever you want me to do. I'll go to church every weekend and I'll start being a nice guy and I'll start doing the things you want me to do and I'll stop doing the things that you want me to stop. Just please take this away from me. I'll do anything. If you are not afraid to ask God, the creator of the universe and all the people and things in it, for a favor, why can't you ask a person? Why can't you ask a person? Well, you can, is my point. So ask people for help. Dreamers are not afraid to ask people for help. They're not proud. Let's keep moving. 2 years after Joseph interpreted those two dreams, the cupbearer's dreams and the baker's dreams, 2 years after all that went down, Pharaoh, he started having these dreams. And he was dreaming about the most terrifying thing of all, the things that haunt all nightmares. He was dreaming about cows. Terrifying. He was dreaming about cows, but Pharaoh thought that these dreams, that they meant something, and he was right. They were cause for meaning. So he called together all of his most trusted people to help figure it out. Now the cupbearer had forgotten about Joseph for 2 whole years. He had forgotten about him once he got out of prison, but he remembered him right now in this moment. And isn't it funny how big dreams remind you of big dreamers? Big dreams don't remind you of small dreamers. Big dreams don't remind you of small-minded people. Big dreams remind you of big dreamers. So he told Pharaoh about Joseph. The cupbearer told Pharaoh about Joseph. And the king brings him out of prison to help interpret the dream. Now Joseph says in verse 16, "It is beyond my power to do this, but God can tell you what it means and set you at ease." Now notice that pattern as well. We were reading before as he was interpreting the dreams of the cupbearer and the baker, and he was saying, "I can't interpret the dreams, but God can. I can't interpret the dreams, but God can. It's beyond my power to do this," Joseph replied, "but God can tell you what it means and set you at ease." I want you to know, if you've got a dream today, or you don't have a dream, or you're searching for that dream, all you've got to do is talk to God. All you've got to do is let God do the dream interpreting so that you can do the dream executing. I want you to keep that in mind. So Joseph interprets the dreams, telling Pharaoh that they mean Egypt is going to have 7 years of this amazing harvest, followed by 7 years of great famine. And Pharaoh decides to do something incredible with Joseph once he tells him this news. He makes him second in command of all of Egypt. Joseph is 17 in a field, and his brothers throw him into a well. Slave, top of the food chain. Prison, top of the food chain. Out of prison, second underneath the king of Egypt. Not a lot of time has passed. Several years, but really not a lot of time has passed. And Joseph is now seeing all of these rock bottom moments. And if you look at it from that side of the story, yeah, he's been through some rock bottom moments. And how many of you know that if you just shift your perspective on your situation, that you won't see the rock bottoms, you're going to see the elevation. You won't see just the rock bottoms, you'll see the elevation. So I'm going to challenge you, just shift your perspective today as you're thinking about your life and the times that your dreams have been killed. Have they really been killed, or has God elevated you to a different place to carry on something different? I want you to think about that. So over the next 14 years, Pharaoh's dreams, they come true. And Joseph, he's ruling over Egypt. He's helping managing these storehouses, and he's distributing grain to those who need it. And during this time of famine, so 7 years goes by, great harvest. Now he's in this time of 7 years of great famine. And this super awkward thing happened, super awkward. His 11 brothers show up to Egypt, starving, looking for food. And Joseph is the one who has it. So, when you're thinking about that, I want you to know that they don't know that it's Joseph. His brothers all think that Joseph has been dead for a long time. And it's been about 30 years since they last saw him, so they don't recognize Joseph. But Joseph definitely recognizes them. I mean, he definitely wasn't confusing them with that other group of 11 brothers. Right? He's going to know that that's them. And he decides, really at first, once he realizes this, to basically mess with them for a while. He was just kind of messing with his brothers, which I think is funny, and they definitely deserved it. But we've got to skim this part of the story for time. And I'm just encouraging you, though, that you should go back and read the full story of Joseph, because there are some moments while he's dealing with his brothers and they don't know that it's him that are heartbreaking when you start to read it, and they give you a lot of understanding as to how faithful Joseph was to God. I can't stress that enough. I wish we could have all the time to go over that. It's a very long part of the story. But Joseph struggled with revealing his identity. He wasn't sure, I think, if he was going to do it, if he was going to tell his brothers, "Hey, I'm Joseph." I think he wasn't sure, because can you imagine what that would feel like? Can you imagine what that would feel like if all of your family betrayed you and tried to kill you and then never saw you for 30 years? Can you imagine carrying that with you? Can you imagine how many nights Joseph was thinking about that moment and wondering why that happened to him? That would be a tough thing to carry with you and to have forgiveness in your heart. But I want you to see what Joseph does. Eventually, he decides to reveal his identity to the brothers. And it was an emotional moment, I think. And it was very difficult for Joseph, probably more than any of his brothers. Now, his brothers, when he first reveals himself, they're speechless. And Joseph says this in Genesis 45, verse 4. I'm Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into slavery in Egypt. But don't be upset. And don't be angry with yourselves for selling me to this place, because it was God who sent me here ahead of you. Just let that sit with you for a minute. Don't be upset that you sold me as a slave and left me for dead. Don't be upset. I'm not upset. Joseph is saying, I'm not upset. It wasn't you. You didn't do this to me. This was part of God's plan all along. God has sent me here ahead of you to save your lives when you're in this time of need. Don't miss that. I want you to see today that when God gives you a dream, he's going to see you through it. When God gives you a dream, he will see you through it. Joseph trusted God. He trusted God. That's why God entrusted him with the dream. So many of you, maybe right now, you're just like, man, I don't have a dream. I'm not passionate about anything. I'm not excited about anything. My life is just boring. It's dull. I'm numb. I'm not feeling anything. I just wake up every day, and then I go through my day, and I go back to sleep. And I want you to know, if you are in that place, I don't want you to think it's because God has taken your dream. I don't want you to think it's because God won't give you a dream or never will. I want you to know it's not because of something you've done or haven't done, but maybe you just need to trust God to entrust you with a dream. Maybe God is waiting on you to be ready for the dream that he has called you to, because maybe the dream that he's going to give you is bigger than anything you've thought up so far. Maybe everything you've ever been passionate about has never even gone to the level, to the place that God is going to bring you when he is ready to reveal that dream to you. I want you to consider that. Look back on this entire scripture, not just what I've shared. You can look at it. You can read the whole story. You'll notice something. You'll notice that there is not one scripture, not one sentence where Joseph complains about a situation, and none where he questions God. In fact, there are none where we figure out what Joseph is feeling or thinking at any given time. And you would think that's kind of important for a long story about this guy, Joseph, the main character of this story. You'd think we'd want to know what he's thinking, but I think it was irrelevant. I think it was irrelevant because I don't think Joseph had his own thoughts. I know that he had his own thoughts. I don't think that Joseph paid any mind to those because he was keeping his eyes fixed on the dream that God showed him back in the very beginning. Back in the very beginning. He has held to that dream since he was 17 years old. God gave him that dream, so he kept his eyes fixed toward God, toward the dream that God had given him. When he was in the pit, listen, God brought him out of it, and that's all he focused on. When he was sold as a slave, he didn't see that. God brought him out of it, and that's what he focused on. When he was in prison, God brought him out of it. And God is so good. Listen, don't miss this, church. God is so good. He didn't just keep Joseph safe and put him in another situation. God repaired a relationship with 11 people who tried to kill him. God did that. God took Joseph from the lowest of the low and not just kept him safe and made him happy and things were fine. He repaired relationships. If you've got a broken relationship, that might be your dream, to see that dream fixed or to see that relationship fixed. I want you to know a couple things. Number one, there's pain in the preparation. There's pain in your preparation. Any dream is going to require preparation, and any preparation is going to require pain. And I want you to know the second, the most important thing, God is in the grind. God is in your grind. God is in your grind. Now listen, church, I just want to challenge you. I want to challenge you with something I'm challenging myself with. I want you to be honest with yourself. Something that I've been working on. I want you to be honest with yourself. You don't have to talk to anybody else about it. I want you to be honest about what you've done. I want you to be honest about what you've been through in your life. I want you to be honest about the people that you've hurt. I want you to be honest with yourself about it. Just be honest. The best thing about this is why being honest is easy. As soon as you can see this, God has taken away the guilt. God has taken away the shame. He's taken that away. All you've got to do is be honest with yourself about the things that you've done, because that's going to allow you to move past those things so that you can focus on your dream. I'm just going to ask that you bow your heads for just a moment. We're going to pray in just a minute, but first, I just feel like in this room, I just feel like there's some people who feel like their dreams have been killed. If you feel like your dream has been killed, just put your hand up and hold your hand up. I see hands going up in the room. If you feel like your dream has been killed, has been taken away from you at some point, I just want to pray for you in this moment. God, we're just believing that you're going to take away this feeling that our race has been run. You're going to take away this feeling that it's finished, that we're done, that there's no more routes to go, that our dream has been killed. God, I'm just praying and believing that you're going to ignite a passion inside of these hearts, God, of these people in our church, that you're going to instill them with a dream and entrust them with a dream, and they're going to learn to trust you more, God, and have their passion and their heart and their desires reignited through you, God. That you're going to give them not just the old dream back, God, but you're going to give them a new, a bigger, a better, a more important dream, God, that they're going to see purpose and a vision in their life that they've never seen before, that you're going to show us where to go like you showed Joseph. We're just believing for that in this moment. Listen, church, you need to be a dreamer. I need to be a dreamer. We need to be dreamers so that we can learn to move forward in the moments when everything stops us, because all we have to do is focus on the dream. I want to ask you this today. Just keep your heads bowed and your eyes closed. What's your dream? What is your dream? Don't try to size it up. Don't say that your dream is too big. Don't say that your dream is too small. That doesn't matter. Your dream might be to start a business. It might be a dream that your marriage is going to heal. It might be a dream that you can be free from your addiction. It might be a dream for financial stability. It might be a dream for your home and your household. The size and shape of your dream is going to be unique to you. But the calling that God has placed on every one of your lives, on every one of our lives, is so huge. It's the same calling. It's the same purpose. But God has given us a unique size and shape dream to carry that out. Don't let your dream be killed. God hasn't killed your dream. He's ready to entrust you with a bigger one. God, we're just thanking you today for that. We're thanking you that you're able to just lift us up, that you're able to take care of us, God, that you're able to ignite us with a passion, God, that we're going to change the valley, that we're going to not just be here on the weekend, God, and have these conversations and leave and act like it never happened, God, but you're going to change the very way that we live our lives, because you're going to instill a passion in us that is profound, that is only from you, that can only be attributed to you. God, we want to just give you the glory for all of our stories as we move forward, and we want to trust you more so that you'll entrust us with bigger and bigger dreams, God. We love you, and we want to give you all the praise and all the glory, and we say it in your son Jesus' name. And everybody said, amen. Thank you.
Can you keep giving it up for Nate? Keep clapping for Nate.